Hey everybody, what's going on? Kyle here, I'm the Geekin Dad, and today I am kickstarting my coverage and working with AMD's new line of motherboards, chipsets, and processors with the launch of Ryzen. Now I know Ryzen launched at the beginning of the month, but being the pleb that I am and not being a full-blown media reviewer like, the likes of a Jace 2 Cents or a Paul or a Bitwit are, I still aspire to be something like that. So after seeing their reviews, I thought, this is a really good opportunity to get my hands wet and my feet dirty and hands wet with reviewing a new line of offering that's completely new to the market from AMD. In today's video, we're going to be focusing specifically on the MSI X370 Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard. And we're just going to be doing a very simple unboxing and overview of what you can expect in the packaging, as well as a physical tour of the board itself to talk about some of the features before we get into like proper build videos and things like that. So let's go ahead and get you transitioned and see what this board has to offer. All right, so here we are with the retail packaging on the MSI X370 Gaming Pro Carbon. One of the first things that we've got to point out, X370 Ryzen, whoop-de-doo, VR ready, whoop-de-doo, Mystic lighting, RGB, so this can control your RGB lights. If we flip it around to the back, here we've got more of a general overview and some more dustiness, but some more marketing material, as well as a layout of the rear I/O, which is pretty nice, as well as the specifications of this board. Once again, we've got our Mystic lighting header. We've got an M.2 slot. In fact, we have two. We'll get to there. We've got two PCIe slots. We've got the steel reinforced DIMM slots along with the steel reinforced PCIe slots. And this is going over some of the software packaging that goes with this board. So if we open it up, we have, of course, on top, motherboard and nice anti-static wrapping. I'm going to set that to the side for now. All right. I'm going to look at our packaging inside the box. Now, it's a pretty simple box for a $180 motherboard, which is, in my opinion, perfectly fine. We have right here possibly an SLI bridge. Yes, we have an SLI bridge that comes with it, since it does support dual GPUs. We have a header for dual to go from our single. This header plugs into the single header on your motherboard and expands out to two LED strips, so you can control two LED strips with one fan LED header as well as one breakout cable. Some standard SATA cables. We've got one normal and one right-angled cable. We have our rear I/O shielding, which is just a nice subtle black with red, of course, because gaming, black and red is always associated with it for some reason. We have our driver and installation disc. Documentation on how to install your AMD heatsink, as well as documentation on how to orient your memory depending on your configuration. We have our user manual, which is really small, which is kind of nice. It's not like a honker, which, a lot of times they can be. It looks like it's English only. Good pictures, it would appear on first glance, so that's nice. We got some labels for your cables, specifically for SATA cables, but if you want to label other cables or that are in your system, you can definitely do that with these. Thank you for choosing MSI product and quick installation guide. Pretty simple stuff. So we're gonna put this all back. Now this is my first time getting this out of the bag and the box, so I am somewhat excited about this. So I'm going to actually take a moment. We're gonna bring you on in just a little bit. Gonna get this repositioned here. Oh, more towards me. Okay. Well, we'll work with it. So here you are. Here's your motherboard. Standard ATX layout. I like the very monochromatic matte black look with just some shiny carbon aesthetics. It's not a super RGB lit up board like some of the other ones are. And thank God it is not the titanium with that silver coloring all around it. If we look at the back of our box, we can see that we have a trace right here for PCB separation for the audio. That is going to be RGB LED lit, as well as the heatsink right here for our X370 chipset. That's going to be RGB LED lit as well. And that is it as far as RGB lighting on this motherboard goes. Really kind of like a relief, if I'm being completely honest. I'm really looking forward to how this build is going to turn out. I think it's going to be a very clean, subtle look with some great LED accents, but it's not going to be over the top. If we start around the CPU socket right here, we have our AM4 mounting right here with our AM4 socket itself. Here we go. We have our 8-pin power. We have a 4-pin fan header, another 4-pin, and another third 4-pin fan header up towards the top here. We've got a fairly decent looking power delivery system here. I'm not sure how many phases it is. I'm sure if I looked I could find out, but I'm not looking right now. As we continue on, our system fan header right there. We have our 24-pin ATX power right here. Our 4 DIMM slots, DDR4 with the metal bracing around it. Down here we have a right-angled USB 3.0 port, and oh, I almost missed it. We have another system fan header right here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far PWM fan headers. That's pretty nice. They're not 3-pin, just voltage regulated. There's some PWM headers. I am looking to see if we have up by the motherboard or up by the CPU socket, and it doesn't look like we do. Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's good to know. It's kind of disappointing. So, okay, I'll talk about what's disappointing here in a moment. So as we continue on this side of the motherboard, like I said, we've got our USB 3.0. We've got 2 SATA 6 ports right here. We've got 2 more SATA 6 ports right here. Nothing else, nothing else. We have another USB 3.0 header. So if your case has 2 front panel headers, then you'll be able to support that. We've got a USB times 1, 2, how many is that? 3 USB front panel headers. One of these, this one for sure is an RGB header. Here's another system fan header right there for you. So we've got plenty of fans. We've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fan headers on this motherboard. That is ample for most cases and most builds that this is probably going to go into. We've got our audio chipset over here. We've got your front panel HD audio right there. We do have our M.2 slots right here. One of these is controlled from the CPU itself. The other one, if you're using 2, is going to be controlled off the chipset. And let's go ahead and take a look at rear I/O. So looking at a rear audio, if we go From top to bottom, we've got a PS2 mouse port, which is nice. We've got USB 2.0 ports, which is nice as well. That's usually where I end up plugging my mouse and keyboard. We do have a DVI-D port right here for, obviously not for the Ryzen chips, as those don't have iGPUs on them, but some of the upcoming APUs most certainly will, being that they're APUs. We do have an HDMI 1.4, as well as two USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports right here, and those are going to be the 5 gigabit per second ports. We have our NIC with an Intel LAN, as well as two more USB 3.1 Gen 1 ports. These, once again, the USB 3.1 Gen 1 is effectively USB 3, which is 5 gigabits per second with our data transfers. Here, right here, we have our two USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports. One type A, one type C, and those are going to be our 10 gigabit per second USB 3.0 ports. And then finally we have our HD audio out, including an optical audio out. Here's a simple look at the back of the motherboard. You can see here some of the solder points for the metal PCI and DIMM protection, as well as our M4 backplate right here. And you can get a better idea of the trace layout for the PCB separation for the audio. Oh, see, I didn't catch this at first. So we do have additional LEDs on the edge right here that are going to provide a nice underglow that'll come out from under the board. So that'll actually be a nice touch as well to go with the very subtle LED that we have on the chipset and on that trace. Now there's a few things that I want to pull out the manual for to take a look at. So let me do that real quick. So JFP1 and JFP2 are front panel connectors up here. I'm not sure how well you can see them, but these are our two front panel connectors. This is definitely our LED header right here. And then we also have up top here, right here, technically we have our BIOS jumper right here, as well as a TPM module header right here as well. All right, so there you have it. That is our first look and overview of the MSI X370 Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard. Like I said, I am super looking forward to getting this into my build. Dropping the 1700 in here. The Be Quiet Dark Rock 3 is going to be cool in that bad boy. And I'm looking forward to the aesthetic of this build overall being a very flat matte black look to it with the CPU cooler as well. And then just some really nice subtle pops of lighting accent, which is going to be great, I think. I'm looking forward to it. This was not my first pick of motherboards, but I will say that now that I have it in my hands and I have a theme and aesthetic going with it, I am very excited to get going. So with that said, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Give me a like if you like this. Give me a dislike if you thought I did a terrible job. Leave me some positive or negative feedback in the comments down below. Subscribe if I've earned it. And until next time, geek on.